Hello, everybody, and welcome to another A Better Way of Life. It's Friday. You've made it through another week. And if you hear a ding, that's Marianne's computer because her notifications are binging, banging, bonging all the time. It's all right. I don't know. I can't see from here. There you go. That's because suddenly, after years of drought, well, while we've been talking about AET Level 3 and trying to get people involved in training, suddenly the floodgates are open and everybody wants to talk to you because suddenly they've realized that you can actually help them put together their courses, which is great.
And we've got something exciting to announce as well.
Wow. Yes, folks. Marianne, you're going to hear it first. Marianne has got something exciting.
Should we leave it a little bit?
Yeah. You know, if you want to hear the exciting news, you have to watch all the way to the end.
If you want to use me, you'll benefit from this as well.
But that's the key to this. If you want to use Marianne, then you will benefit from the exciting news that we will tell you at the end. Now, you've been out and about this week, so where have you been?
I went to the NEC yesterday. Not gonna lie, I had mixed feelings about going. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with these shows. Previously, I've been doing one of the stands, which I find a bit easier doing that because I feel like I've got a real purpose for sort of being there, if you see what I mean. Like, people will come to me and I'm okay with that. I can deal with that because I can talk. But if I'm going to one of these shows, I then get my head into who am I going to speak to and how am I going to, I don't know. It just all feels weird. I was speaking to right at the end of the show yesterday. I saw it was Kay Mumford. Hi, Kay. And I made her laugh because I said I find going to these shows, wandering around, like going on the pull when you're sober with people that are a bit awkward sometimes. It just all feels a bit really. Then my head kind of goes, oh, well, I've got to drive all the way to the NEC to go to 2 shows actually, because I went to the World of Learning and I went into the care show. And then I think, oh, I've got to drive, I've got to park. You've got to pay for parking. You shouldn't do. What I'd done though is I'd spoken to Guy DeSalvo. I'm getting the names in here, aren't I? Practicing what I preach. And I'd said, well, he'd been on the podcast before, and we'd said we were going to meet up at some point. And I said about the show, and he said, I'll come. And he then said, I don't know if I'm going to. And I said, oh, don't worry. It's, I know that he's got a business and he's having the same troubles that lots of other people are, which I'll talk about. So in the end, he said, oh, I don't know if I'm going to. Yes, no. I couldn't be bothered to get up in the morning. And then actually, he said, no, do you know what? I am going to come. So I was like, oh God, I better get up. And we met, and it was great having someone else to go with. We just chatted, and you could just go around the stands, but we had a lot of conversations and sharing some of the difficulties we're having, and a lot of it was, I'm going to switch off my thing, by the way, because I know it's really irritating. Just sharing lots of the struggles that we have, a lot of them that people might share on a post on LinkedIn, but it still feels, I still think some people struggle to do that, and I absolutely get why they do. Different people have got different levels of what they want to share. They don't know who's looking. They might feel like, I don't know, whatever it might be. So it was great to share that. And then we went across into the care show to go into that one. But it was a bit later when I got there for that one. And they had the after show party, which was really good. And Paula Cashmore was there, and Alka. So Paula was there, and we said, oh, we'll go into the show. And then Alka was there, and I taught Alka. And we met another lady. She does singing and entertaining in the clubs, I was going to say, in the homes, residential homes. They could be clubs.
We should just say, by the way, all these people that Marianne's talking about, these are people in the care sector, and you can find them all on LinkedIn if you're on LinkedIn.
And Alka is just about to start delivering training, having been on my training, who said that after she'd written her program, went on my training and then changed it. So she's going to be doing a lot around culture, delivering care, but also about managers dealing with the whole culture thing, whether that's staff or whether it's residents as well. So she does some amazing stuff, a lot of stuff nobody will touch on, actually. So yeah, we stayed for a party, and then Big Ian was there doing singing, and yeah, it was
doing singing.
He sings, and with like t-shirts on, sort of championing care sector. So it was really good. It's the first time they've done that, and I think we stayed till 7, I think it was. So that wasn't bad for somebody that didn't really want to go. But usual me, Paula, and Alka got up dancing first. Of course. Oh, you can't just sit there, not, can you?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, I would get you up. I would. I'd bully you. The only time that bullying.
You know what? I'm really confident at doing most things in front of most people, but the one exception to the rule, to be honest, is dancing.
Yes, but you would get me doing stuff. You've got me to do video.
Yes.
I would then make you feel guilty and say,
I wouldn't feel guilty at all about not dancing.
I would make you feel guilty to get you to dance, that I go on video.
No, because that's beneficial to you that you do video. It's not beneficial to me that I dance. You see, that's the way I look at it.
But I would make you feel comfortable, and we'd find a way of.
This Sunday evening, I'm going to dance.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to a rave.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a real rave.
Dancing, but I think it is.
In a building in Bristol. There's 2 American DJs, and they're coming over, and I'm on the guest list, and I'm going up, and I'm going to rave for an hour.
Do that.
And then I'm going all that, and then I'm going to do box fish, parcel, sellotape, whatever, for an hour, and then I'm going to go home.
I like that. Oh, I wish I could go. It's been a bit of FOMO over here.
One of my sons is going to go with me. I don't know. Yeah. But that is, look, that is the reason why I took up DJing. Absolutely, because I loved going to clubs. I loved the atmosphere of going to clubs when I was younger, but I hated dancing. So when you DJ, you don't have to dance. You see?
But see, this is a bit like the shows. That's what I'm like. If I'm behind one of the stands, I'm great. If I'm teaching, absolutely great. But I do think a lot of it, though, is to do with the person that's doing whatever it is. So whether it's people learning, whether it's people dancing, whatever it is, those people have a really, really. I was bringing us around to teaching, don't I? And I'm such a. It is to do with how that safe. A lot of this comes down to how safe someone makes you feel. So whether that is whatever it is you're doing with someone, it's amazing what. I've done it before. I stick to my guns. I've just got to let the dog out. Sorry, because she's going to scratch the door. Sorry.
Oh, Lottie's such an expert.
In and out like a yo-yo this morning.
Has to come into the show every week. Lottie.
She can't get in either, so then she's going to bark at the door. But I'm going to ignore her then. It's amazing though, isn't it? Just how much we can achieve when we trust the person that's working with us. I know that there's when we first started working together, there was lots of things that I was like, oh, I'm not doing this, or I can't do that.
Yeah.
And you'll see it a lot, and that's why I think you have the success with people you do. I know that the success I've had with people, it's not anything magic. It's no, and it's just about having a way about you. So having the tools and having the skills, but also having that way. And I talk quite a lot about coaches. I've talked a lot about coaches this week, actually, who have done the course, whatever the course might be, which probably isn't a qualification, but that's another thing. So they have the framework. Often what they've got is a framework, but what they don't have is the right approach.
Yep.
So quite often I've talked myself out of thinking that I could be, or that I am a coach. But of course I do coach people. And I do it well, apparently. But I talked myself out of it because of other people that were shouting about what they do. And when you start looking at it and you start hearing the way those coaches speak, like giving me unsolicited advice, you've had them before in your DMs, health coaches, telling you stuff. And I think, whoa, that is not, like literally, that's not an effective way to work with someone. So it does concern me slightly. And actually, a lot of these coaches then twist it to say, if you don't do what they are advising you to do, that it's because you're putting barriers up and you're being difficult, when in actual fact what they don't see is if they built that trust up with you and find out where it is you want to go, that it's not about them, it's about you finding out where you want to go, you understanding what their life is about, what are their barriers. You know that, you know about my life, you know that there's times I might say, oh God, I've got a lot going on at the moment. That's not me putting our butts in place necessarily. It's me being real.
Yeah. One of the things we want to talk about today, because we've just been doing it. So you've started getting more inquiries, which is great, and getting busier. But for any of you that are out there, that when you start getting busier and more people are like demanding of your time, one of the most dreadful things is trying to book appointments with people. It is awful. And I know like you can completely automate it, but it's really difficult. And even more difficult is when, which we've got a situation like that just going on in the background at the moment, where someone goes, oh, I want to bring, and it's a good thing, but they say, oh, I want to bring more people into the equation and book a meeting with more people. And then everybody's got a different agenda, and it's like, oh, I can only do this time.
Then you've got little old me that won't use electronic stuff.
Well, you don't. Yeah, but ultimately, it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter, you know. But I don't know. We'd love to hear from people as to how like you deal with it, right? How do you deal with that booking time off to have meetings type thing? Because it really is.
And if someone changes something. But it's interesting because when I say to people that I get access to work and that you support me, they go, oh, you're really lucky. And I go, I don't think it's really lucky that the things I struggle with, which before you came on board, I didn't follow up emails. I didn't, the amount of leads, maybe I could have been a millionaire by now, who knows? The amount of leads I didn't follow, or somebody would say to me, I need to swap this. And then I'd know that would take quite a few things to do. And I'd go, and then I just wouldn't do it because it was that executive function bit. It was just too many steps to do. And so it was easier just to back out of it. So, yeah, sometimes when people start swapping things around. Well, the other thing I will say, I've seen this week, I saw somebody talking about, well, I see it quite a lot. Somebody was talking about interrupting and how rude that is. Then I see people talking about people being late. So I see lots of things mentioned that, of course, I stroll up to the comments. I see lots of other people saying, yes, rudeness is terrible, lateness is awful, I won't tolerate it. And I stroll up to the comments saying, well, actually, I'm probably one of those awful people. But every day I work with this, and I hate saying it's my ADHD, but it is a struggle. Lots of things are struggles. And, many of us do try really hard. And when you see those sort of comments made, it's quite shaming. It is quite shaming. And what I would advise people is that to be aware that trying not to be judgmental would be helpful, and just stop to think, when that person interrupted, do you really think they were trying to be rude, or was it because they had ADHD and they thought they might forget, or was it menopause even? Like I'm forgetting things like they're nobody's business at the moment. And that actually, any of us can be not perfect, whatever that is, at any time. And so just being aware that if you say to somebody, I'm just going to send you this link, or check with them, do they use that? Because it could be, the other day somebody said about like Slack, I thought, oh God, that's something else now I've got to like get my, so that's yet another thing now that I've got to keep checking, because that's another email that comes into my, which they're great, but I would just advise people just to check that person.
Well, I think people just need to be open and honest with each other about lines of communication.
Yes.
So I think when it comes to, I've just put a post out about it actually, but when it comes to things like introducing a new system, it's always the thing where like the people that have the system will obviously assume that everybody else should use that system because that's their preferred method of communication. What really should happen is we should go around the houses and say, look, we use this, what do you use? Yeah. Okay, well, they're different. Maybe give justification for why one system should be used over another. And then when a system is decided upon, if, say, for example, someone says to you, right, well, we need to use Slack, and this is the reason we need to use Slack, they should then be offering you to say, okay, do you need us to walk through how Slack works, or and not just how Slack works, but how we use Slack as well in that communication, so that you understand our communication method. But people don't do that.
We didn't the other day when it was great, and it was great when I saw it. This is great, but I just thought, oh, something else now that I've got to not pretend, because in that instance, I couldn't really say that I couldn't use it. I just thought, oh, that's another thing I'll have to add to my list that I'll say that I'll try and learn, but probably won't, and I'll end up sort of like cobbling it together to understand it, but not really using it to its full potential. Yeah. So I think the other one was somebody put a post out about not liking voice notes, and then asked people, do they like them? Yes, no, always use them, and something else. And I said, well, mine is kind of like, I don't really mind. You know, I tend to sort of work on the basis that we've all got different preferred methods of communication. And, you know, I tend to look at it and think, okay, so if someone sends me a voice note, they've sent me a voice note. Obviously, at that time, that's how they, you know, I'm not, what would you be? Not deaf, so I can use that. And if I were, I probably would message the person and say, you know, you send a voice note, I'm just letting you know that I might have to use the transcription, and I know they're not always that accurate, so you may want to choose. But that's like having that conversation. But nobody can assume or expect that everyone's going to like their way, and that if they use voice notes, they're awful. So I said to this person, have you, I think I said something about, oh, you know, it doesn't really bother me. There are some days I will use a voice note because I literally don't have I don't have the capacity to send a message. So at least the message would get there. But if I knew that person didn't like a voice note, then I probably would go the extra mile. So in the end, I said, look, you know, what was the issue with the voice note? She said, oh, because I'm anxious about what might be on there. I don't mind if my family messages me. I said, but could you not do what I do, which is I send out something to people and just say, when you communicate with me, if you send a text, I'm probably not going to be as receptive as I will with WhatsApp. I am more. Somebody I work with, she's actually used somebody to help her manage her WhatsApp messages, because she's got so overwhelmed with them that she can't cope, and she's kind of stepped away from it. So she's actually paid somebody to help her, but she's now saying to people, can you not WhatsApp me, please? You know, and I just think, you know, I know for me now, I'm honest with people, and I'll say, if you want me to email you back in a timely manner, can you please tell me, can you get back to me by tomorrow? Because I hold my hands up. It's something I struggle with, particularly if you're going to make me make a decision about something that is going to take quite a lot of thought. I probably will dither over it and then probably annoy somebody. But if you gave me a deadline, I will stick to it. The wonders of somebody with ADHD is great. We're great humans.
And I'll caveat that by saying the wonders of one person with ADHD. Because we're all different, and even some people with.
I meant the mind being like not what other people would have. That's what I was meaning, was the wonders of a mind that does have certain traits, not all the same. You know, we were just talking earlier. I said my son's in isolation today for doing probably a lot of the things that are not even that serious. And a lot of this comes down to, you were saying you were watching Educating
Yorkshire.
I haven't watched it yet, but that actually a lot of the behaviours that are seen as naughty are often neurodivergent traits. Sometimes they're not, and they're also really not that big a deal if you learn how to manage that. I was a teacher in schools. I worked with kids with behavioural problems. And the more you made of it, the more they did it.
Yeah. No, that's going to happen, isn't it? I mean.
So he's now lost a day's learning.
Yeah.
But I don't even know. He answered back and he did something else. So he's now lost a whole day of learning. I said, so what's going to happen with that learning? He said, I just have to teach myself. I said, oh, right, great.
It's really interesting, especially when you get it in an educational setting, because actually when you see someone dealing with it well, what they do is they educate as they reprimand.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just stop doing that, don't do that. They tell people why you shouldn't be doing it. They explain what that behavior does, or they explain how that behavior makes them feel, right? And then they might ask, why are you doing that behavior? I did a good example of this. We went to see our son's teacher at school yesterday to discuss how he's getting on in terms of his adjustments and looking towards like EHP program. Is it a EHP program?
Yeah, EHP.
Yeah, being put into place, etc. And she was brilliant. And she said, like, oh, the other day he made a bit of a fuss because we went out late to lunch, right? We went out quarter of an hour late, right? And he rightly said, well, you've kept us out. You kept us in class and let us out late. He said, we shouldn't be coming in now. And she said, well, that's a fair point, isn't it? So actually you can all stay out a bit longer. And then she put a whoops up on her board and she went, yeah. Or she said, oh no, you can go out a bit later and have a bit more time later on. And she put a whoops up on her board and she said, I made a mistake there. I kept you in too long. You should have been out at this time. And then, you know, but it was communicated both ways, you know, and then that's fair. But you can't.
It is so often though. Like I know a couple of things he did. The teachers could have just reacted and said, Oliver, do you really think that was the way to whatever it was? Which would have made it, like you say, he would have looked at him. He would have looked at that behaviour and probably gone, actually, probably not. But as soon as they start doing the reprimanding and telling off, and then it goes down the route of him being blamed all the time. My brother was the same, you know, undiagnosed again, likely. And it just makes them hate school. And my issue with that then is that then you get kids who were, for whatever reason, whether it is because they're struggling or whatever it is, it could be they can't see properly, it could be they can't hear properly. Anything will mean it. Could be they've got stuff going on at home. And if we don't actually look at the root cause of that problem, of why they're doing that behaviour, all you end up doing is making that child hate school. And then we're on a trajectory then. They hate school. They don't learn effectively. They don't do well at school, or as well as maybe they would have done. They then have a dislike for education. They leave school not maybe doing or having the chances that they may well have done. And of course, that's when I speak quite strongly about what I do, in that you know, if you're educating people, if you're educating adults, you should know, you should be taught the same as you are as a teacher how to teach, because you're also dealing with people that have been kids that have probably had problems that then carry even more baggage with them and dislike for education and more barriers and everything else that make it harder to learn.
Well, the other thing is what you've got to ask yourself in these situations is, so that normally the reprimanded behavior normally comes about. The reason that that happens is because it's going to be felt that the behavior is disruptive to the learning experience, right? And therefore they've got to stop that, because ultimately there are targets, and everybody's got to meet targets and everything else, which is fine. We understand that this is how the modern education system happens. But then what it sounds like there, can't really comment because I'm, don't know the case fully, but what it sounds like is that there's nothing put into place that, especially if he's repeatedly doing this, and it, given what you say that he's like waiting for a diagnosis, it may not be his fault. Is there's nothing put into place to enable him to step out of that situation and reflect.
No.
Whatever. And like when we were discussing it yesterday, my son has the opportunity, if it's going to be too much and he's starting to feel a bit, he can walk out the room and go into a room where he can decompress and then come back in again, and he can take his work out there. We
did, when we spoke to one of the teachers, they did say that sometimes he'll sort of back chat, and usually the back chat is because someone hasn't given him a chance to have his say, or he knows that there's not going to be, so he thinks, I'll step in first. And one of the teachers did say, do you think he'd benefit from having one of these cards, which is just that? And I said, most definitely.
They haven't done it.
They were going to move him tutor groups, or there wasn't space.
Oh.
So all of the things that should be put in place aren't. And you can't help but see that they get frustrated. Of course someone's going to get frustrated.
Yeah.
Like you said, being able to go out to another room. I know that I've adopted the ability to, or the skill ability to be able to say, do you know what? I'm just going to walk out of the room right now because I'm feeling like I'm going to say things or react in a way I don't want to. So I'm just going to go. Yep. And it is beneficial, in saying, and actually, even this to the kids, I'll say, look, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed at the moment. I'm just going to go out of the room for 5 minutes. It's not anything against you. It's just that what's happening here is I'm feeling a bit upset with it. So I'm just going to go. And the other thing as well is, like you said, with that teacher, it's mirroring and as a role modeling how you would want, and showing that actually adults make mistakes as well. Oliver said the other day about the teacher, him having his shirt out, and he got up there. That was it. That's one of the ones he got a thing for, a mark for. He got up from his seat and his shirt had come out because where he'd been sat down, and he got marked for that because his shirt had come out. He didn't have it tucked in. He said, I literally stood up. And I said, well, I would have got a strike continually yesterday because when I got out of the car, my shirt was tucked in. I don't think anybody at the care show or the World of Learning was going to tell me off for it. But there's a fine line, I think, between, and also really the young people, they're learning. Life is about learning. And if you constantly chastise people, when it comes to learning, back to what I talked about at the beginning, if people don't feel safe to be able to make a mistake, they just won't try.
Yeah.
Won't try.
And let's just say this is very different from, because I do see that as well in society at the moment. I do see a lot of people will say, especially around young people who are neurodivergent, etc. They'll just say, well, we can't tell them off because it's not their fault.
But there's a difference. It's telling off, though, isn't it? How about don't tell someone off? How about, like we said, have that conversation, or just use this to think about why somebody may have done that. You know, when I see quite often kids being told off, I think there may be stuff going on. Does nobody ever stop to think what maybe is going on for that child at home?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I've been to things where like other parents have said we can't tell our children off because they are neurodivergent, and I'm like
their own children.
Yeah, and I'm like, come on. I mean, if my child is naughty and does something wrong, they should be told. They should be told that, you know, doing that is not right, right? And so I think it becomes difficult because I feel like we've got to that place in society now where maybe like we're kind of like over tolerant of certain things, and then that makes people overly react in other areas, and it's just, you know, because it is difficult. And I think for some people it's difficult to see the line as well between when do you discipline and when do you guide, you know. I
know I don't sweat the small stuff. I see quite a lot of posts that ironically do very well on LinkedIn that are the ones that people say my non-negotiable is, and I think, oh god, that those make me roll my eyes before I've even started you know, carried on reading, because they are things about the absolutes people expect, and they're often people that work in recruitment. I've seen quite a lot, and I kind of think, how can you literally have non-negotiables around some behavior things without considering the why thing? Do you see what I mean? Yeah. And it does concern me. So the dog's trying to come up now. It does concern me slightly that if people that work in recruitment, let's just say, if they're not considering why, another one that comes up is how long do you give it? They're always the ones that bring the people in. How long do you give it before you abandon a meeting if someone's late? Well, of course, the floodgates open with that, don't they? That there's the people that have got no tolerance at all, that are like, no, if they don't turn up. I mean, I literally just now made a massive mess up, but I completely have confused times. I don't even know what I've done. We should have had something else happening this morning that didn't happen. I must have said yes to you for recording, thinking, oh God, I'm supposed to be with somebody else. Then I said, oh, actually, I'll swap that to another time, and then realised that I'm supposed to have a meeting with someone else, of which they haven't sent me an invite. So I've had to just message them and say, is it on or isn't it on? But I also have counselling every week, and off the back of changing for the one thing that I think might not happen now, I didn't need to change my session. So I just, when I see those floodgates open, it tells me quite a lot about those people. So just be very careful when you do comment on things. You're telling people an awful lot about how maybe you run your business or how you conduct yourself. And you know, for me, I just said, well, if it was me, if I am having a meeting with somebody and they've made me aware that they may forget or whatever, I may then message them 10 minutes before just to say, just to remind you. Like you said to me, I'm going on StreamYard, and I said, am I even meant to be there? Which was great, because you did that just beforehand, and I turned up. But when people say that that's it, I've got no tolerance for lateness, I just think we live in this not very tolerant world. And they say, I've got no tolerance for lateness, it's very rude. And I think, oh, right, okay. And so,
yeah, I hear what you're saying, pulling together some of those bits that you've said. I struggle with this. I struggle with this rhetoric of, you know, it's all about your boundaries. You really need to set your boundaries, and you need to, you know,
it's all about you. It's all about.
Yeah, I struggle with that because, you know, personally, how can it be all about you? I mean, you know,
even from how people, I've seen other ones about how you address people on an email. Someone said, if someone addresses me in this way, like hiya or this or that, I'm not even going to read it any further. And I'm like, I'm more concerned about the content than, do you know what I mean? I'm more concerned about that. And I
Yeah.
said, just think how many people you've potentially just written off because they didn't address you in the right way. And particularly when you think about different cultures, we're dealing with people from all different cultures. And you and I have had this conversation before, how you've actually spoken to people from different cultures, countries, whatever, and maybe advise them on their sales, how they sell to maybe people over here that may not be as effective because it will be taken in a different way. Which to me is that's really helpful for them, but yeah, that they may. I always stop and think, how does somebody, if I was non-negotiable and they're non-negotiable, how's this ever going to work in the world? Because I know that, you know, I may do something that upsets somebody, but do they not think maybe what they did was
We
inconvenient to
should
me?
see these things as opportunities, not reasons to react against people. You know, if someone, when you get the post where it's like, oh, fed up of people dropping into my DMs from other parts of the world trying to sell me something straight away or whatever. Well, do you know what? They think that's a great way to sell, right? That if so you got a choice. I mean, you could just go, oh, go away, rude thing, or whatever, or you can say, do you know what? Thanks for telling me all of that, but you don't know me as a person. And as I say, as I've done with some people, is to say, look, I can really help you because you've got a set of skills there that could be really quite necessary for people. But if you approach a lot of people in the UK, for example, in that way, you're going to get knocked back. And would you like to learn why? Would you like to understand what might be a different way of doing it? Right? They might turn around and say, no, I don't. I just want to carry on DMing people. That's fine. But, ultimately, I feel it's more about opening discussion on that side of things. And quite often they will say, yeah, no, I didn't know that. I don't understand why I get kicked back if I DM people.
Yeah, and I just think I think more so than ever, really more so than ever nowadays, we need to be more understanding about this and having these conversations and appreciating that in a world where we seem to have more of a freedom of speech and freedom to be how we want to be, that not everybody's going to be the way that we are, and that's not necessarily right. And I know that I'm probably very relaxed about stuff, that when someone says how would you like this or that, I'm like, I don't really mind.
Well, I think there's a massive dichotomy going on here, right? Because I feel like on the one hand, we're preaching to people that, ultimately, culture-wise, within organizations and everything else, we ought to be more inclusive. We ought to celebrate diversity. Yeah. We ought to celebrate, be more understanding of each other. And then on the other hand, we're trying to teach people, even sidetracking it into like a mental health piece. No, it's all about maintaining your boundaries and I know I'm going to get kicked back for this. It's all about maintaining your boundaries, and it's about setting out your stall, and it's about protecting yourself, and it's about cancelling things if other people say something that's not what you believe or whatever. And I'm sorry, but the two things do not go together.
Yeah.
If we are to be more culturally aware, if we are to be more inclusive, etc., then we have to put down ourselves. And I'm also sorry to say that I think that too many people out there teaching people that the only way to survive is for each man, woman, whatever, to be an island, right? And that, again, is a load of rubbish, because ultimately we are social beings as human beings. If we all decide, oh, well, look, the most important thing in the world is me, and everything else revolves around me, and the way I do things is right. And actually, I don't need to take into consideration anybody else, including when it comes to things like work, my family, or whatever. Then this is a nonsense.
I think even people that are neurodivergent as well. I see there's quite a dichotomy. I gotta get the words in again. They just said that there's some people that I've got ADHD or I'm autistic, therefore everything has to be this way. And I'm like, no, it doesn't actually. It doesn't. You know, I struggle with things, and I have conversations with people to say, this works for me, that doesn't work for me. So I yesterday when I was at the care show, I was speaking to somebody, and this person said, I love the stuff you put out. And I was like, oh, really? I wasn't really aware that they or anyone really sees it particularly. And I said, I love the fact that you just sort of own who you are, but you don't make a big deal of that, the fact you've got ADHD. And it's not like it defines you. I may say, because actually other people might relate to it. He said, oh, you know, you and I have butted heads a few times about things. And I was like, okay. And then reminded me that we had about clothing. It was about whether people should wear, I think it was like about whether men actually should wear suits. And it was, they'd shown a picture, and I think that they'd said how incredible it was. If you looked at these people, they were mainly men. I think if not all, wore suits and looked smart. So it opened up the conversation to have about this. And I said, I must have said, how do people feel about that? And I said, I think people should dress how, you know, unless it's a uniform, you dress in the way that you feel comfortable. You know, yesterday I wore what I wore, and I have to say, you know, I thought, today I feel like I'm on a white shirt. Does that then make me look in a way that I don't want to come across? And then I thought, just wear the white shirt, Marianne, for God's sake. So I wore the white shirt, and I wore a jacket, to which my son said I looked like a secret agent, which is quite entertaining. Then I went to the petrol station, and the woman said, oh, your jacket's beautiful, which was the difference between a female and a child giving feedback on an outfit, which was hilarious. But this person then said, actually, you know, you really made me think about it, and I've changed the way I dress now. And I thought how incredible that was. But what I do find on these posts that are very absolute, what is interesting about them is that if I will then say to somebody, have you ever considered that blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, yeah, if we're talking about somebody that's got a disability, or if we're talking about somebody that's different culture, then of course I would be. And I said, well, don't put the post out there then. Please don't put the post out there then, because you're doing it to create some kind of, I don't know what, to get traction. But think about somebody that may read that isn't doing it in the way that you want. They may be really put off by what you've just said.
I just want to throw my hat into the ring on the smart dress thing. And I'm going to upset some coaches that talk about how you should dress for success and all of that sort of thing, which is
not that to wear a suit and tell me what to do, but there we go.
I just think that so this is my I do feel like if there's a dress code, one should respect the dress code. If I was told you're going to this event and the dress code is smart and everybody has to wear tux or whatever, I would hire a tux and I'd go in a tux. All right, if there's a dress code, there's a dress code.
Yeah, and there will be a dress code for a reason, in a way, because from Married at First Sight, I think the guy said to his wife, he said, oh, you might want to wear a dress. She took offense, and he said, no, it was because I knew we were going somewhere smart, and I knew that she would feel not dressed right.
Yeah, I feel, you know, that's fine. But I would always start from the point of dressing smart does not mean you are smart.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what comes out of your mouth, what goes in your ears, and what happens in between, right, defines how you are smart, not what you are wearing. Because I've known a lot of people in very fancy dress, wearing very smart outfits, who talk an utter load of rubbish. And I've known a lot of people who adversely who, you know, dress like
tattoos is the one, isn't it? Tattoos, often people are judged
dressed, exactly, would have tattoos all over themselves and a t-shirt and dirty jeans and whatever, that would say some of the most wise things on the planet. So it does not define you in terms of that. And the dress for success thing, if it fills you with confidence to dress in a certain way, if you feel more confident, if you can hold yourself with more confidence or whatever in a certain situation by dressing in a particular way, so you are more smartly dressed or whatever, good for you, right? But I would ask yourself the question here: are you hiding behind something there? It's because actually, why are you not confident in yourself? Why are you having to put on a mask in order to be confident? Now, I know for all of us that actually there are times when masks are really quite helpful, right? Well, what I mean by that is if you talk to a lot of singers about performing up on stage or whatever, when they inhabit the persona of a front person at the front of a band or whatever, they may actually for that time feel so much more confident than they would normally if they were just walking down the street and whatever, and that's fine. Or they might wear, amazing outfits or whatever for on stage, and that helps them in their confidence. And so I feel like, it's fine if you want to wear a suit or a dress or whatever, and it makes you feel confident in those situations. Yes, but are you along the journey of that? Are you building your inner confidence? Because if you're not building your inner confidence, what happens if you arrive somewhere at some time without the suit? Right, it's a bit like not having your your lucky crystal with you or something. Ultimately you need to build that from within. So that's my take on it. Personally, I will never judge anybody by what they're wearing. I will judge them by what's coming out of their mouth, what's going in their ears, and what happens in between. But
I freelanced for a company, and they said to me that I was going to need to start wearing a polo shirt or a blouse with their logo on. And I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I said, when I teach, I never know until that morning when I get up, unless I'm away, which is why I find that stressful when I go away. I will go to my wardrobe and I will think, what do I want to wear today? And I've got a wider range of different blouses that have got, I think I've got one's got cactus on, I've got cherries, air balloons, butterflies, moths, lemons, but my mood will take me, and that then becomes like me. That's I like to wear stuff that's matching as well. So when they said to me, I said, I can't do that. What is your reason? I'll wear a badge if you want me to that's got your logo on it, but I'm not wearing a blouse. And you certainly shouldn't be asking a woman of a certain age, or anybody really, but arguably somebody that might be feeling more conscious about their body shape, expecting them to wear something that you've imposed on them because you want their logo. I just have maybe a polo shirt if I was doing first aid, maybe, but I'm not going to be told what I'm going to wear.
Well, here's the thing. So I sometimes dress up at the weekends.
Oh yes.
Sometimes I wear smart stuff if we're going out for a meal or stuff like that.
Oh, sorry, I was being rude then, Graham. Sorry. No, because that's respectful, and ultimately, it's because this is the brand. The brand is generally a band T-shirt and a hoodie, and that's the brand, and that's what people have to put up with. Now, before we finish today, A, we promised you some news, which we're going to give you in a second. B, we're going to give you a quick update on what's happening in terms of the live trying to book a meeting situation. So, Marianne, we threw out trying to do the meeting on Monday. Of course, everybody's come back that they can't do Monday. they can only do Tuesday, and everybody's saying they're saying they can do Tuesday at 10:30. There we go. Do you know what's funny about the 10:30 one? 10:30 is an awful time for me because of my having to wait around until then. But you know what? Because everybody else wants to do it, I'll do it. What is also funny is that the meeting that I was supposed to have at 1 till 2, that I thought, oh no, because I didn't know. I knew I had that one, but we were a bit later starting. Whilst we were on, I messaged to say to the person, are we still having it? They said, yes, here's a meeting link. I said, oh, I might be a few minutes late because we're late starting, to which our messages crossed over to say we're going to be 20 minutes late. So it's just funny, isn't it? If we're not all tolerant of the fact that everybody's got stuff going on, I think the main thing is just you're respectful over it and that you apologise.
Absolutely. And on that note, we're now going to tell you the special news. This is where we should just cut it off.
And
like not actually.
I'm not that big yet. That people
and people will have got all the way through the 50 minutes and then not know.
Con artists.
Absolutely. So what's the news?
It is. So I've talked a few times about how I've been doing some course writing, and then I found that maybe this is something that people struggle with, which is quite funny because trainers won't admit that they need help with training, but it appears then that people write training courses and they think that because they know their stuff they can dump it into something and then they will then get it accredited. And then I was finding out from the CPD group, they said that there's a lot of stuff that comes through to them that really isn't that great at all. Some of it might just need some tweaking, but there's a lot that comes through that literally is either just AI generated, that isn't in any shape or form good. There's other ones that you have to write a lesson plan. So if you don't know how to write one, it's still not that great. And equally, it's not going to be that great, aside from getting accreditation. So I then said to them, look, could I work with you on it? And they said, yeah, we'll see what we can do. So I spoke to them and said to them, look, I've got this whole process now. You can have 15 minutes. People can have 15 minutes for free. You can do 14 if I'm too much for you. So 15 minutes, and then you can do 90 minutes. So you pay £250, and I'm very open about that. 90 minutes with me, and we've kind of broken it down, but it wouldn't have to look like this. That you'd have an hour where I would look at your course material already or whatever you've got, then an hour and a half with you to go through how that will look and start working on things. And then I would put a plan together for you as to what you need to do next. So whether you choose to do that on your own or whether you choose to use me afterwards, or I can set you homework.
So basically, I mean, in terms of your work time, it's probably like 4 hours or something.
Worth of work. So I'm quite open. It's not. It might sound a lot straight off, but actually, when you break it down, there's people charging an awful lot more than that. But I equally, to go along with how I am as a business, I like to make it affordable for people because I want people. I
don't think you said how much it is. Yeah,
I did. I said 250.
Oh, 250. Yeah. It's £250, folks, for approximately 4 hours work, which is, actually for what you're getting here is good. But actually, it's a gift that keeps on giving. So it's not just that.
So I spoke to we spoke to them at the CPD group and said, look, if people work with me, is there any way that we could have it a bit of a discount? Because obviously, the better it is that they get it, the less there is that they can do. So they've agreed an 8% discount. So anybody who you have to do the 90 minutes with me, so you have to sign up for that bit. Whether you choose to do more afterwards is up to you. But you pay the $250 to me, which I will then give you a code. You will then register with CPD Group with the code you've got. You won't get the discount if not. That will then trigger. You will pay the full amount for the accreditation, and then they will take the 8% off. They normally only give 5.
Right. So effectively, folks, if you think about it this way, Marianne's services are pretty much free, because by the time you've spent that time or the extra time trying to get your course through CPD and get it ready for CPD, right, you will have paid somebody internally or whatever more than £250. I can guarantee you that. Absolutely guarantee you that. So it's £250 of your money, so well spent, right? Because effectively you will get that back when you put this through CPD. What's the benefit of getting it through CPD? We will now tell you very briefly. The benefit is,
well, companies now, when they're buying training, they are looking for it to be CPD accredited. So more often than not, that's what they're going to be looking for. And with CPD Group as well, they are on the CPD register, so they're the only CPD company that are on there, which basically means they've gone through the highest. They're the best, at doing that and ensuring that. The other thing is as well, so whether it's particularly using me, but also going through that, is that I know how to write training properly. I know I'm a teacher. I know how to develop that properly from the ground upwards. So yes, people still might get through, but actually I'll be teaching you as well how to do it. So if you come to do another time, you'll actually have the skills. You won't need me so much.
and not only that, we can also go from there as well. So if you're a coach or a trainer and you've got a particular skill set where you're teaching people how to do something at the moment, you'll have realized fairly quickly on in your business plan that there's only one of you. So the next thing that you need to do is scale up. And as good business coaches will tell you, the best way to scale up is to take what you do and get other people to do it for you. So when you want to do that, what you need is need to get a group of trainers who can go out there, or you might franchise it to a group of people who can go and deliver that for you.
We have just with the Insight group. I wrote. So Michael had written the course already. He then needed to train the trainer and said, I have no idea how to do this. So I worked with him painstakingly to get in his head to find out what he wanted them to know, because essentially they were going to be him when they were delivering it. So we worked really hard at that. And also we worked hard at having a trainer and how that was going to be assessed. So how was he happy at making sure those people were going to represent what he wanted them to? So we worked on an assessment that was appropriate, and we did assessments within that. They did a micro teach, and our first one yesterday, Jamie Gordon, he passed, and he's now delivering the Insight program to first grade.
There you go. So if your dream is really to lie on a beach in the sun or play golf for the rest of your life, and you're a coach at the moment, and you're wondering how to really upskill people and scale up your business, the answer is come to us first. And if you haven't got the course to do that in the first place, then come to Marianne as well, because then we'll actually help you write the course.
I know all about it. If you want it, whatever you want to do with it in terms of quality assurance and that sort of stuff, we kind of know a lot, really.
Know a lot. And you can get a lot for a little, which is a supermarket. We will be back.
Every penny counts.
Every little.
You get another one now. What's the Sainsbury's one?
Oh, I have no idea.
Other supermarkets.
Other supermarkets are available. We will be back next week with more of the same. We'll probably have a guest then, but we hope you enjoyed the conversation today. If there's any questions, you've got any questions on getting a course out there, getting it accredited, improving what you've already got that's been written by AI. We don't even mind if you've written it on AI, that's fine. That's a great skeleton for us to work with, but it won't necessarily be right. So do get in touch and we can help you move that forward. We will be back same time, same place next week with more of the same. But until then, from Marianne and myself,
and Lottie,
and Trooper the dog, who you can't see but he's down there. Goodbye for now.